Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to A1 Forever Sports. I am Chris Tip Moore. Be generational because it's always time to be, and ain't no point of selling for less when you can always have more with the vision. And with that in mind, the vision of this video is to highlight three questions coming into the 2024-25 season regarding the Atlanta Hawks. Now, some of these things can be subjective, opinionated, but honestly, I think that all three, especially number three, are major factors heading into this season and beyond. Please like, subscribe, and help my videos get out there into the YouTube algorithm so more people can get Hawks content, Falcons content, and Braves content, and more, actually, from A1 Forever Sports. Now let's get into the video. All right, guys. So number one, I would like to begin with this one. It is, did the Hawks truly get better, and especially on the defensive end? Backtracking a little bit, the Atlanta Hawks traded DeJounte Murray, who was coming off one of his best years as a pro, and especially as a Hawk. His efficiency was going up. His numbers were going up, especially from the three-point line. He got better as a three-point shooter here in Atlanta. And he was traded away for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr. They threw Cody Zeller in there. EJ Liddell was in there, a 2025 pick from the Los Angeles Lakers, and the least favorable 2027 pick, which can come from the Memphis Grizzlies or the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, least favorable. So it's not like it's going to be a high pick unless both teams suck. But to be in short, regardless of what you've heard or believe or read, you know what I'm saying, about the DeJounte Murray, Trae Young thing, ultimately, it just didn't work. You know, it just didn't work. So let's just move on from that. But moving on to something that's relevant, that is this year, I believe that Coach Quinn and his staff has to convey the game plans, provide the best lineups, and also rotations within the lineups. You know, the scheme. They got to figure it out. It's time to coach. It's time to show the city of Atlanta that you can help Atlanta get it done. I understand the success that happened in Utah, but some people will even question that success, you know? So it's time to get it done in Atlanta. I understand he came through like pretty much after the All-Star game. You can't fault him for anything that happened for the rest of that season. Last year, you know, it was kind of his first year. And now I want to see what you can do with this lineup. You have some guys that can defend, you have some guys that have some length. You know, you're putting that around Trae Young. And regardless, when Trae was out, the Hawks did play a little bit better defensively, but it didn't really just translate into a lot of wins. It was like right there, you know. So ultimately, the Hawks, they were 28th in the league with 120.5 points per game on defense. And that defensive rating, yeah, it was right there. Wasn't too far off. 27th in the league. Yeah. So did you get better defensively? Did the front office make enough moves to put the Atlanta in the best position in this 2024-2025 season? Did the Atlanta Hawks do enough to where Coach Quinn can say, okay, I can coach these guys up and get to a dominant position in the East? All right, number two. Number two for me would be, how much does this season factor into Trae Young's future decisions? You know, regardless of how people feel about Ice Trae Young, you know, saying he is the Hawk star.
For me, my whole envision was to always be here. Like my whole goal is to win here, win championships, bring people here with me, and build this championship here and dynasty here. But who knows? Like it's year 6 now, and who knows? Like for me, like I want that.
Honestly, you can say he's the biggest Hawk star since they had Dominique Wilkins, because people can question Josh Smith, people can question Joe Johnson. At the end of the day, as far as like star potential and star power, Trae Young is already there. He's already expressed his desire to win. The Hawks still have 2 full seasons of control until 2026, where Trae will have a player option. Now, Coach Quinn and Trae believe that they can win together. Cool, no problem. That's what you want. You want your star player and your head coach to be on the same page. I get it. But ultimately, I feel like it's going to come down to, are the Hawks really headed in the right direction? Are they competitive? Are they finishing game strong, especially with the lead? You know, it's been times where we've had a lead, and then next thing you know, we've coughed it up in the second half, coughed it up in the fourth quarter, or maybe the third quarter, and then we just couldn't recover in the fourth quarter. It's so many different scenarios that you really can paint the picture of things that's happened for the Atlanta Hawks. And it really is reverting back to number one, and that is, are you better defensively? Now Trae Young, I would give him his credit. You got to, because he had one of the best years defensively for him, especially with steals, but more will be required. Effort and want to has to be displayed by the entire team. That does not fall on one player. It never has, and it never should. But bottom line, it has to start with Trae Young in many ways, any way possible. There are no ready-made stars on the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young now. You have great potential. You have some ifs. You have some maybes. Yeah. And I like, said most of those great potentials, ifs, and maybes, because of what they could possibly be and turn into with more opportunity. But it's not about liking a guy or not. It's about the results on the floor. You want to see the results from everybody on the floor, and that's really ultimately what it's about, whether you like a guy or not. This is Trae Young's team solely, and Ice has to lead the guys. He has to. The alternative would be, dare I say, to move on, and not necessarily from the player. I don't think you're necessarily moving on from the player, but you may be having to move on from the contract for reason number 3. Now, some people may be like, oh, A1, man, you got to chill, man. You worry too much, man. The Hawks can still have success, blase splee. And even if they don't, guess what? We can just go ahead and just trade, blow it up, whatever the case may be. Absolutely not.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
Because the Hawks don't own their draft picks. Hawks fans, actual real Hawks fans, know that the ownership of those draft picks went to San Antonio a few seasons ago when you traded for DeJounte Murray. 3 first-round picks this coming season, and the next 2 seasons after, no matter where these Atlanta Hawks finish, the Spurs get your pick. If you bottom out, the Spurs get top 10 picks in the next 3 drafts if you bottom out in the next 3 years. Then the Spurs still have their draft picks to get more talent, whether it's through the draft or whether it's via trade. I mean, look at guys who like stash draft picks like Danny Ainge and what he did, OKC. These teams that have multiple draft picks, it gives you options to try to build a championship contender. Look at OKC now. At one point in time, it was the number 1 seed. Regardless of what happened in the playoffs, they still have improved, finally, through draft picks that they accumulated. So, and I know, because I know I would be sick as a Hawks fan, but I already know Hawks fans would be sick if the Spurs became a championship contender off their picks. Come on now. You going to help somebody else become better? I was never into that. Never been into that, So right now, Atlanta has to depend on the Lakers having a bad year, right? And then they also have to depend on DeMar DeRozan making a difference out there in Sacramento, uplifting them to the playoffs to have a good position in next year's draft. The Hawks don't own a first-round pick in 2026 at all, okay? And they have the least favorable, again, between Memphis and New Orleans in 2027. 2028 is when the Hawks are back in control of their picks, you dig? 2028. That's a nice little hike from now. I know it's close around the corner, but when you still got to go through those seasons to get to it, it's a nice little hike. Oh, can't forget, after reports of looking for trades for these guys, you haven't been able to move on from Clint Capella or DeAndre Hunter. And at this point, you're probably going into the season with both. And that's fine. You know, at this point, I'm cool with that. That's fine. But Clint Capella is on an expiring contract. DeAndre Hunter is locked in into the 2027 season. So whether he'll be in these in new trade talks, like how John Collins was, like how Trey and DeJounte was this past year, and shoot, he's been already in contract talks as far as like trying to be moved. We'll see how it goes going forward with DeAndre Hunter. But because of the situation of you not having control of your picks and everything, and you also do have guys out there who are saying the trade value for a trade is low. I don't believe that, but I believe the Hawks wanted to keep Trey, but it is what it is. You know, I'm no fly on the wall. But ultimately, this number 3 may be a decision to where it comes down to like, okay, if the Atlanta Hawks are not competitive, you may have to see what you can get for Trae Young and possibly move on. All right, so just a quick recap. Will the Hawks be better defensively? And will they be able to produce points efficiently? Can Trae Young uplift the Hawks back to the playoffs like he did previously before all these trades came, before the Miami series of them trapping Trae Young, before all this? Can Trae get back to that 2021 season to where he led the Hawks to the playoffs and almost got them to the NBA Finals? Can Trae do this? Or will Atlanta be forced to move on because of previous decisions and someone new will have to lead the Atlanta Hawks into the future? All these questions must be answered, and we have to go through the 2024 season and beyond to see exactly what kind of answers we get. For A1 Forever Sports, I'm Chris Tipmore.
A1, yeah, truly, cooler and I'm flyer too. Giant.